The Rewind Sports 60.com.
All right, yeah, I'll get started on a few things today. In regards to our schedule change today, as the league, confirmed to y'all, our team's batch of tests from yesterday never made it to the testing facility. So, the way it was explained to me was a courier issue, and I'm not sure that company or process, but the NFL did confirm to us that it was nothing on our end. It is disruptive. It's disappointing, frustrating. But then again, it's been 2020, and we just got to have that mentality of being able to adjust and move on. And I think that's what our guys did. So early this morning, we wanted to make sure that we adjusted, but we wanted to also not compromise anyone's health and safety. So that's when, credit to our players, our coaches, staff on being flexible. I think everybody locked in. No one flinched. It went off really well. We tested everybody this morning. We waited for those results for much of the day to get back. And so then during that time, we've since Zoomed our meetings while we've kind of waited. And that's what has delayed the practice schedule. So really beyond that, like I said, we're rolling, and our guys understand. I thought their attitude was great. And it's nothing new to them. So they didn't flinch, like I said. So that's where we're at here, and then we'll get ready to head out to a walkthrough practice inside. So, in regards to also on another subject with Mario Edwards, you saw our statement yesterday on Mario. There's not much else for me to add because of the legal situation. Clearly, we take these matters very seriously. The authorities were involved that evening, and we were immediately aware. We've been in lockstep with the NFL on this the entire way. As it relates to the NFL and to our own club protocol regarding the COVID, that was dealt with internally with Mario. So that's where that's at. Again, it's something that we take very seriously, and it's not something that I'm going to be adding to because of the legal situation. And then the last thing here as well is just to fill everybody in regards to the injuries. Buster is still in the protocol, and Jalen Johnson is day to day. So that's where we're at right now with that. So with that, I'll go ahead and open up to questions.
First up, Dan Wiederer.
Hey, Matt, I've got two questions. First, on the COVID related thing, the tests you took this morning, typically those would be results you would get back later tonight or tomorrow for tomorrow, right? So the test you took this morning were sort of for today and tomorrow? Is that clear or accurate?
I think so. Yeah. Again, just making sure we deal with what the league has us do. And then with Andre, that's what we follow, what they tell us to do. And I think that's our guys handled it really well.
And then on the Mario situation, given that we are in the COVID-19 year, what are your team rules in terms of guests at the hotel, given how secure you've tried to keep the bubble from the start?
Yeah, well, that's stuff that, again, for us as a team, we have our own rules and things that we have. And for us in regards to his situation, and really anybody's, especially with him, with the legal situation, that's not something that hopefully you guys can understand. I'm not going to get into right now, even with our own rules and all that stuff,
Deion Miller.
Matt, shifting back to where the team is at right now, just coming off a win and after the way this season has gone, have you sensed maybe a relief that they've had, just getting that off of their backs? And, you talked about enough is enough. Have you noticed that there's been like a turn with them just getting that out of the way?
You know what, Deion, I haven't, just because I think, this afternoon will be the first time that we're together in person to be able to sense that a little bit. I thought the last couple of weeks, even though we lost, I thought their energy was really good in practice. But these guys, where I get to see it is in some of these player committee meetings that we have, and just kind of getting a sense from the leaders as to where they're at. And I love their mentality. And, you know, we always talk about leaders create leaders, and those guys they led and guys followed last week. So I'm excited to just know where we're at and just excited to see these guys get back at it. Now, again, today it's a different schedule, right? I mean, to be in this situation, but our guys, I have no doubt in my mind that today's practice will be locked in mentally. It's going to be different, but they've been really good with their attitudes, and that's all I can tell. And then I think it's also human nature, Dion, that whenever you're in whether it's one game or 6 games, it stinks that week to have that feeling. And so obviously 6 in a row, it feels like forever with a bye week. So that part feels good, but it's a reset, you know, because we know where we're at. We know we want to continue to keep getting better.
Pat Finley.
Hey, Matt, I think on Monday you said the word playoffs, and I'm not sure I'd heard you say that this year. Is this something, now that the streak is over and that you do, you know, have a little control over your destiny, that you talked about openly with your guys, and why or why not?
Yeah, we do, Pat. And I think every year is a little bit different. I know, and you might be referring some of that back to our first year when we were winning a lot and we were in a good place, and our guys, you know, coaches and players, it was a little while since we've experienced that. And so we were in a good place. And sometimes I just, you know, I felt like at that point in time, let's focus on what we got in front of us. And that's just keep playing one game at a time and not even talking about the playoffs. I feel like right now, Pat, that we're together longer. We kind of know how each person works. They know how I coach. I know how they play. And so also there's that real part of, okay, why we're playing. And we put ourselves in this position right now to where you have to be honest with your players as to what's realistic. And obviously winning the division is no longer realistic, but we want to do everything we can to be able to get into those extra games and in the playoffs. And so whatever that is. So this year, you're right. I did bring it up, and I have talked to the team about that because I do know what we have sitting in front of us, but we have some major things to accomplish right now. And that's to make sure that we win this division game with Minnesota.
JJ.
Matt, I understand you can't talk about the legal stuff. I just want to be clear with Mario. Were you guys as a team informed of the incident that night and then informed of the charges when they were filed on October 20th?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Colleen Kane.
Hey, Matt, also in regard to Mario, is he practicing and participating in activities as normal this week, or does that change as the league is and you guys are looking into it further?
No, he's still practicing with us. Yes, he would be practicing with us.
Larry Mayer.
Hey, man, I just wondered if you could clarify in terms of practicing tonight. Have you and when did you guys get the green light from whoever that the tests all came back okay, or are you still waiting for that?
No, we did get feedback that everybody is okay and negative, so that's a good thing. And I think that was part of the plan, which I give, you know, Andre and Ryan a lot of credit for as we talk through this thing. Like we've never been through this before, right? So it's like, what do you do? Like, where's the balance of making sure you do this thing the right way? Obviously, it's a very important week at where we're at right now, and so you got to balance too, like making sure that you're getting the correct practice in, and then mentally, physically. But you also have to, number one, you have to put your players' safety and health as the number one thing above all this. As hard as that can be sometimes for when you want to get all into the X's and O's and practicing, we know, and we know what's number one, and that's the players' families and their own health and everybody else's. So that's what we did. And so to get the negative stuff back is good. And then tonight, what we'll do is we'll adjust accordingly a little bit. We will go inside, and I think just talking to the people that know way more about people's bodies and how it reacts than I do, the suggestion is that we'll have a lighter practice, much lighter practice tonight, and then we'll get back at it tomorrow. And the other part of this too is we want to be careful of getting off schedule with the guys with their sleep and everything. So we don't want to push it too late.
Jason Leisure.
Matt, one of your friends is in the news this week. I wonder what you think about Louis Riddick possibly interviewing for GM jobs. How do you think he would do in that?
Yeah, no, I think that Lewis would do a really good job. He's, I go back to, and when I first got started in Philadelphia, Lewis was obviously doing really well there on the personnel side, and we kind of hit it off in regards to just kind of talking football and that sort of thing. And so now that he's in this position, it doesn't shock me that he's done really well, in the commentating business and in sports. And but he's really good at what he does, and I'm sure that he'll do well in all of his interviews. And I wish him nothing but the best for sure.
Couple more for Coach Cam Ellis.
Coach, there's been some conversation the last couple of days about maybe Robert Quinn is dealing with a foot injury. Do you have any reason to believe that he might be fighting through something that's a little more significant than, just week 15 bumps and bruises?
No, I don't. And I think that, he's been healthy and he's rolling, and I love Robert Quinn's attitude and just where he's at. He's always, he's always funny. I always ask him, how you doing today? He always in that country voice says, I'm doing good. I got to open my eyes. So that's just who he is. And he's playing hard. No one's working harder than Robert Quinn right now to have more production. And, we all know that everyone's talking about the sacks or what he's getting and not getting, but he's going out there and he's playing hard every single play. I mean, you look at the pressures that he's having, and he missed that one sack the other day, but he's playing hard, man. And I one of these, it's going to turn for him. And I'm really glad that he's playing as hard as he is. And I think this thing will turn.
Mark Potash.
Hey, Matt, how important has moving the pocket been for Mitch? I mean, I know that's always been a strength of his and a way to, get the most out of him, but it seems like this is almost like a little bit of a revelation in this with the way the offense is now, that this is really the best way to do that. So what do you think? What has the impact been, and how important has that been to making him effective?
No, it's been key. I think that's stating the obvious, and you make a good point. I mean, when you have somebody like Mitchell that can extend plays with his legs, and I think some of that too, as you all know, just with the background that I came from in Kansas City and just some of the things we did, there wasn't as much of that. And I think now you start kind of, it takes some time. It doesn't just happen overnight, but I do feel like we are creating a little bit of an identity, and that's a part of it as well, with him being able to get outside of the pocket. Some of the arm angle throws that he made the other day were special. And that's, you start getting, the more you do it, the more comfortable you feel. It's also a credit to, to the linemen and the tight ends for being able to get that run game going, because if you can get that run game going, it's going to open up those nakeds and those bootlegs. If you can get the run game going, it's going to open up those play action passes for those guys to be able to get over the middle of the field and try to get some chunk yardage. So right now, I would say it's definitely a huge part of what we're doing. We appreciate that part, but we have to be able to make teams guess when it's coming. And I think that's what we're doing now. And it's also fun, been getting into that. It's been fun for us as coaches to do that as well.
Adam Hogue.
Matt, this is obviously, you've had multiple weeks now where you've lost practice time, whether you've had to just adjust to it being a walkthrough instead or losing a practice altogether. I'm just curious, what have you learned this season about how much practice time is actually necessary, weighing meetings versus practice time, and what you might take from 2020 into 2021?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, for sure. I mean, it is unique for sure to be able to have to go through making sure that you are doing things the right way with the physical side of it, the mental side of it. But then also too, like all of a sudden this comes up and, there's a lot of prep and planning that goes on to these practices. It's not like you just wave a magic wand and then you go out and you practice. I mean, there's a lot of prep that goes into it. So all of a sudden, if we adjust at the last second, that throws off our schedule as coaches in regards to the prep, really not for what we're doing today, Adam, but what we're doing tomorrow. And then how that's a trickle down and domino effect for what it does for Friday. But our coaches have been great. They understand that. I mean, whether it was late last night in the middle of the night or whether it was early this morning on the way in, there's text messages and phone calls and Zooms going on all over the place. And that's probably what I'm most impressed with right now is the lack of frustration from our organization. It's teamwork right now. And is it what we want? No. But is it a part of what we're in right now? Yes. And we knew that. You guys go back to expect the unexpected. We're just expecting it now. So we got to make sure that we have positive attitudes. You know, it's not feel sorry for yourself or blame a day of practice for a certain reason. So our guys have done that, and now we'll see how tonight goes. But I know our guys will be locked in.
That's all we have time for today. Thanks, Coach.
All right, guys, take care.
Hey, Mitch, how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Good. You had said after the Lions loss that you felt like you had been sort of mentally hardened throughout the season. I was curious if you could expand on that a little bit in terms of what you meant and how you feel sort of mentally going into this stretch run here.
I kind of just feel like the stuff that I've been through this year and in general that mentally I don't feel like I could be phased right now. Just where's my focus is at, and that has nothing to do with how you're going to perform or outcomes or results. But I just think where I'm at mentally, I'm focused. I know exactly what I want. I'm driven. I'm bringing a certain presence and energy to the facility every day that my teammates could feed off of. And I just know what I need to do on a daily basis to help this team. So I just feel like I'm in a good place mentally. I feel like I'm focused. And that was just one of the ways I was describing it. So I just feel like I'm in a good mental space to do my job and help drive this team in the right direction.
Pat Finley.
Hey, Mitch, we've heard from a couple of people about you guys kind of taking what the defense gives you on offense. How have you been able to do that so effectively? And is your mindset any different when you roll out on Sunday than it would have been earlier in the year or last year or anything like that?
Yeah, I think you always go out there having a game plan and wanting to be aggressive. But at the end of the day, for me, it's you got to find completions. And I think anytime for me, when I find a completion, I get the ball into a playmaker's hands, I think good things are going to happen. And I think that's just how you stay efficient on first and second down, and stay out of third downs or get into third downs manageables. But we know going into this game, we're going to have to be a lot better on third down to compete and challenge this defense. But definitely for me, it's just seeing the defense well, studying a lot throughout the week, and just seeing where they give up easy completions and where they're gonna make us earn our yards. And we just got to be good with the ball in our hands. And I got to get the ball to our playmakers. So it's all about being efficient for this offense.
Larry Mayer.
And I kind of wanted to follow up on what Pat just asked you about. Everybody's talking about taking what the defense gives you. How difficult is it for you to personally walk that line when you know you maybe want to not force the ball downfield, but you want to throw the ball downfield, big gains, where you just kind of have to take your foot off the gas a little bit and say, okay, I'm just going to take a deep breath and just dump this one off?
Yeah, I think it was a learning experience. Pretty much right away coming back in for the from the Green Bay game when we want to be aggressive downfield and you force one into double coverage and then you look back at it, you're like, okay, we got one guy, they have two. That's not very smart. So let's play smarter football. And if they got two guys back there and we got a one-on-one, it'd be a lot smarter to throw to the one-on-one, right? So it's all about playing smarter football, making good decisions with the football and getting to our playmakers' hands. So I think that's how you take what the defense gives you, and you got to either find the zones or find the one-on-one matchups. And I think that gives you your best chance on offense.
Chris Emma.
Mitch, you've spoken this season, really before the season, even about the motivation that you had and, having the fifth-year option decline and what you wanted to prove. Now that you're kind of in this micro of these final few games left of this season, did you draw motivation from the idea that you might be playing for your next contract and kind of what you can prove here?
Yeah, I think you're always trying to go out there and put good plays on tape at the end of the day, because that's your legacy. And at the end of the day, we're out here living a dream, and I want to make the most out of every single opportunity. But at the same time, to get the most out of that, I think for me, is just staying focused in the moment and taking it one game at a time. So my complete focus is on the Minnesota Vikings and just taking it this game. And I'm not really thinking or planning anything beyond that at this point. And I know it'll all work out because you just work really hard for every opportunity, and the hard work will pay off. So I'm just focused on staying in the moment, and then whatever happens, happens.
Jason Leisure.
Mitch, along those lines, are you hoping to earn a chance to stay with the Bears past this season?
I'm trying to beat the Minnesota Vikings this weekend. That's I've thought about it, but thoughts come and go. And right now, I know I just got to stay focused on what's about to happen this weekend, and that's just preparing every day for the Vikings.
Mark Potash.
Hey, Mitch, do you feel like you're in more of a comfort zone with this offense now compared to where you were at the beginning of the season? Because it just seems like everything's more tailored to your strengths. I mean, moving the pocket, up tempo, even Komet being a bigger factor now than he was his first game. It just seems like the offense is better. Is that just kind of a mischaracterization? What do you think about that?
I do feel comfortable. I mean, after getting benched and then being able to go back in, this is just kind of some of the things that I've been asking for. And I feel like there are strengths of mine and also strengths of this offense. And I just thought it was a good idea to get Cole more involved, to get David more involved, to get A-Rob more involved. You just got to get the ball to your playmakers out in space and stretch the field horizontally and vertically, but also keeping the defense off balance. And I think the change in tempos really helps this offense. I think moving the pocket really helps me and helps our offensive line, and also helps create run lanes. So these are things I'm very comfortable with, things I've been asking for. And I think everyone's buying into it. And I think we're starting to build an identity, and we just need to keep getting better and better. And at the end of the day, when we play 11 guys as one, and we're playing as a unit and we're executing, that's when the good plays will continue to happen.
Brad Viggs.
Hey, Mitch, following up on what you just talked about, is that what provides you with some confidence that what you guys did against Detroit on offense, what you did this past week against Houston, is sustainable here for the stretch run as you close out the season?
Yeah, what gives me confidence is I think I've felt the offense get better each week in practice, and then that also translates to the game. We didn't necessarily win the other two games we played in, but I think you've seen growth, and I've felt that growth over the last 3 weeks. So for me, it comes down to in practice, making sure we're focused every day on the execution. Guys are buying into the plan and being locked in mentally and doing our jobs. And then when we get to Sunday, make sure we're going out there and executing. But I think it's been working. I think we've been progressing, and we just got to make sure we stay trending that way.
Kevin Fishbane.
Hey, Mitch, you mentioned David's role in the offense, and I think since Tariq went down, he's certainly been a bigger part of the passing game. What's it been like to have him as that outlet? And is that kind of something you always saw in him as being a guy that could really help you guys out in that passing game?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think just from working with David this offseason and throwing him routes, I was like, we got to get this guy involved in the pass game. Any way you can get the ball in David's hand in open space, that's going to be a good play or a win for the Bears. So if they're loading up the box and we're trying to run him with the ball into a loaded box, I don't think that's a good look. So why don't you have him run a route and get him one-on-one with a backer, and he's going to make guys miss in open space, and he's really good yards after catch with the ball in his hands, and he's tough to bring down. So everyone's seen that, and I think the more times 32 can touch the ball, whether it's in the run game or the pass game, it's going to help our offense, and we're going to be efficient on first and second down and moving the chains. So he's a special player, and I saw the work he put in this offseason, and you could see it on Sundays.
Last two here. Mike Berman.
Hey, Mitch, you're talking about these changes that you went to the coaching staff and asked for, and how they've had such a positive impact on the offense. Why didn't you ask for them earlier, or did you ask for them earlier? and they just weren't willing to implement them at that time. And how do you think, had they started earlier, things might be different?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess you never know. I was asking. I was always putting my input in. But you can't change the past. So we are where we are now, and the offense has progressing over the last few weeks. And all we can do is try to stay on this path that we are now and keep getting better. Can't change the past. I can't put myself back in the game weeks ago or anything like that. But it's got to continue with this constant communication, just having the open dialogue and always doing what is best for the Bears offense.
Last one, Dan, go ahead.
Mitch, as it relates to Cole, I'm curious your impressions of his thirst for contact after the catch last week, and overall what gives you the trust in him.
He's just a special player. He has the potential to be really great. I think his love for the game, his energy, and his overall football IQ is what separates him from most young guys. And then I just think how his size and strength combined with his speed is what is hard to bring down. I mean, DBs are just not big enough to tackle him up top. And you saw a couple times in the game, they're literally the whistle is blown and he's not taken to the ground. They have to blow the whistle because of the forward progress stopped. But he's not on the ground. They just stop him because he's got 5 guys trying to bring him down. So it's really impressive, and we just got to continue to get the ball in his hands and see what he can do right after a catch. But he's been running great routes. He's always willing to do his role, and him and everyone else on offense are willing to block for the other guys when they have the ball in their hands too. So I think when you have that unselfishness and just that overall desire to put the team ahead of yourself, I think that's when we can continue to get better as an offense.
Thanks, Mitch.
Thanks for your time tonight, Mitch.
Thanks, guys. Let's have a good one.
Hey, Alan, how's it going?
Doing well.
When you went back and watched the tape from Sunday, what really stood out to you about what was working with you and Mitch?
Just being on the details. I think that's the main thing. I mean, as cliche as that may sound, when you look at some of the looks that we got and things like that, it just comes down to executing and just being on the details and being where we are expected to be. Even like the touchdown. Like I said, that was something that we had kind of talked about earlier in the week. About a possible look that we may get when we get down deep into the red zone. And they gave us that coverage. It wasn't even something that we had repped as far as against a look in practice, but we did talk about it as far as a possibility, and that came up and we executed. So I think that's the main thing.
Mike Berman.
What's up, Alan? You guys know that it's going to take running the table to give yourselves the best chance to get in the playoffs. How does the way that you guys came out and performed on offense last week, how does that energize you? How does that potentially inject some confidence as you guys look ahead to these last 3 weeks now?
I think it started a few weeks ago. Just started, putting things together. Just kind of building off each and every week. And I think that we've been able to do that over the past couple of weeks. Unfortunately, only one of those weeks we were able to get a W. But I think as far as being able to get the run game going, being able to get some explosive plays off of that, I think we'll be able to build off of that. But again, we can't look too far in advance. We got to take it week to week. We have a good, well-sound defense in Minnesota that we got to get ready for this week, and we got to go out and be ready to execute. And want to start out fast.
Dan Wiederer.
Alan, given the way that game with the Vikings went last month and understanding what they have in their defensive backfield, how eager are you to take another crack at that defense?
Yeah, again, I think it's going to be exciting. I think for us, the main thing that we got to do is, we got to take what the defense is giving us. We got to maximize our opportunities. We got to make plays when our numbers are called. Knowing how they played their defense, again, with this being a team that does a lot of, too high, does a lot of different things like that. We got to make sure that we just, continue to do what we've done over the past couple of weeks, and that's take what the defense has given us, make the plays that we're going to make, and just go out there. And I think that we'll do a great job and we'll get the outcome that we want.
Mark Potash.
Hey, Alan. A lot of things have changed since the first 3 games of the year when Mitch was started out as the starting quarterback. New play caller, offensive line. Cole Kmet's better. Is it that much different? Do you feel any different about the offense at this stage with Mitch as you did at the first 3 games at the beginning of the season?
Well, for me, I don't really try to, factor in as far as, one particular player. Again, I think that we've all grown and we're all, different from early on. I think we're a better offensive unit. I think we're a better team. I think everybody's playing a little bit better. So, again, it's tough to single out one person, but again, where we're at right now and how things are kind of starting to play. Again, I think our line is playing really well. I think we're able to create some explosives in the run game and in the pass game. I think that we've been better now in the red zone. I think we also have, again, created explosives on first and second down. So I think that's the main thing. So, whatever you kind of want to credit that to, right now, whether that's, whatever the case may be, whatever's different from early on in the season. But right now where we're at, I think we're picking up steam right at the right time. And I think we're executing. I think we're performing well.
Thank you.
Hub.
Alan, I know there's no excuses and it's the same for everybody, but I am curious, when you guys have days like today and the number of times that it's happened relative to all the COVID protocols and everything that you're dealing with, in what ways do you feel like maybe it has impacted your preparation and just impacted things overall?
Well, I think to start, from day one of this season, it has been affected by COVID. Again, not having OTAs, having a modified training camp, having other things that are modified, and I think that stands true across the league, so just kind of like Coach Nagy said today, it's something that for some can get frustrating, but unfortunately, that's the reality that we live in right now. Even when we look at across the league, some teams like the Steelers, how they've had their schedule and season, modified, many weeks, to their disadvantage, so again, it's something that unfortunately we have to get used to now. I think days like today, we've made the best, out that we could out of a day like today, as far as getting certain reps in, getting certain looks and things like that. But unfortunately, again, this is the reality of it right now with COVID being, such an impactful thing.
Pat Finley.
Hey, Alan, you mentioned a couple times taking what the defense gives you. What has impressed you about Mitch in that regard, particularly the last?
I think for us, that's on both sides. Again, not just the quarterback, but for us being able to turn that around and taking some, like I think like last week, Cole had a couple slide routes, that he took for 10, 12 yards for first downs. So I think that's for everybody. It's not just, for the quarterback. I think some people think that when you speak in terms of that, it's just for the quarterback. But it's, if we have a slant here, like last week, I was able to get 35 yards out of a slant route. And Cole Kmet being able to get 10, 14 routes off of a slide route. And there's also another time last week, I think he had just kind of like a little hitch inside that he took for about 10 to 12. Even David Montgomery was one play last game. It was, I think, 3rd and long. He took a screen where he got us in field goal range, So when you're doing things like that, you're really able to change a lot of different situations in the game where you're taking a little short route into a first down or creating an explosive off of it, or taking, 3rd and 15 or 3rd and 18, and now it's 4th and 2 and you're able to kick a field goal. That's big and that's pivotal in games, and just being able to do that and having everybody have that confidence that if we put the ball in play, that we have the playmakers to be able to make some big plays. Again, as you start to see over the course of a game, that definitely can change the outcome.
Chris Emma.
Alan, up over 1,000 yards for a second straight season, 100 catches is in range here. What does it mean to you what kind of pride do you take in stacking these seasons together and showing what you can do here statistically?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, is, again, like I said before, for myself, once the off season kind of hit, and I'm speaking of any off season, I try to go into that off season and kind of figure out, what direction that I want to, take my game, things that I want to get better at, and for myself, when I try to put the work in, I'm a guy, who, again, once the off season hits, I'm not a person who just sits around and does nothing, I'm getting the workouts in, getting all that in, so for me, it's just something that's fun to acknowledge, again, I feel like for myself, I try to put myself in the best situation possible. And I always try to put myself in a situation where I don't say, dang, I wish I could have done this differently. That's kind of how I feel like I take approach to each and every year, is that when it's all said and done, I don't want to look at something as far as my off-season workouts or my in-season routine or something I could have done differently, throughout the course of the week. I always want to look back at it and say, that I gave it my best, and that, I really couldn't done too much of this differently, and I let Sundays play out, So again, I try to put the work in the off season. And, for myself, it is fun, seeing the fruits of your labor.
Last two here, Dan.
Alan, what specifically did you miss out on today compared with a standard Wednesday?
Not too much, again, maybe, again, not too much at all. I think for us, even when you started to get into this kind of part of the year, things started to become modified anyway a little bit as far as, certain things speed wise and stuff like that. So I don't think that we've missed out on too much at all. Again, I think even with the guys that we have, some of the vets that we have, even when we kind of talked this morning, guys are really eager to want to, get the mental reps of everything, and really kind of, take advantage of things like that, and I think that coach trusting us as a team and trusting us as a unit. And I think that also, regardless of the record, I think that we've been a unit all year that have come in, no matter what the results have been the week prior, to want to come into Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday and put in the work, whether if that's, a little bit tapered back because of COVID or whatever the case may be, So I think that we've made best of today. And I think that situations like this, we really made best of them all year.
Last one, Pat. Are you good, Pat?
Eric, I'm good, bud.
Last one, Joe Phillips.
Hi, Alan. Two questions for you. From the first 3 weeks of the season compared to now, what is your thoughts on the progression of the offensive line? And then second, if you can sum 2020 up in one word, what will it be?
First, the question would be, again, I think that everybody coming in to fill in for injuries and things like that, I think that those guys have played outstanding. I think Sam Mustafa has brought a very great energy to our huddle, him in both bars. I think the energy that those guys bring, I think that it shows up on tape. When you see those guys helping guys up, when you see those guys always constantly being around the ball, whether if it's down the field on a pass play, whether if it's a run that gets a tackle for loss or is an explosive run, you always see those guys around the ball. And I think that that's something that doesn't go unnoticed, And I think for me, the biggest thing was I think Mooney had a catch against Green Bay, and you saw those guys around the play, on a pass play, and those guys really show up on tape. So I think everybody who's come in and filled in has been very great for us. And also to sum up 2020, I would say uncomfortable, but I think that something for me as a player and as a person, something that was established to me very young was that, to have any success in anything, you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think that being able to adapt, in any circumstances, not only on the field, but off the field this year has really been huge for everyone. And I think that people who do that the best, have saw some progress and have been able to really thrive and accomplish things and really benefit from 2020.
Thanks for your time tonight, Alan.
No problem.
Caucasm, Wisdom Wednesday by the creative
Thought scientists want wisdom. Here you go. There ain't no compromise or negotiation when it comes to who will run your life. Either you take charge and live a productive life of your choosing, or you allow yourself to be ruled by circumstances. You either ride life or it rides you. Your mental attitude determines who is the rider and who is being rode. Ride life. Go get it. I'm your guy, D. Clark, motivated and blessed. Soak it up. I am.
Relax. Reset. Rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60.
It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Riles. It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Riles. WCPT. WCPT.
This the coldest sports show. You were getting the hour from 6 p.m. to 7. Chilling with Lauren Cox and the man Marvelous. Shout out to Mr. Riles and the Italian style. You what sports is the only politic.
WCPT. WCPT. It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Riles. It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Riles.
With Montgomery on 1st and 10, he's running back in a hole, and then he's off with a nice stiff arm, and it's a foot race down the sideline. Jackson in pursuit, Green in pursuit, he's gone to the house. 80-yard touchdown run. Wow!
And Kevin, we said that they were going to focus on the run. That's what they wanted to do. They've had good balance the last couple of weeks, and David Montgomery was going to get his opportunities. To think he was going to start the game with an 80-yard touchdown run. Outstanding job by the offensive line, creating a lane to get him to that next level, and then nobody could touch him. Watch the gap that he's able to run through. There is no one there as he's got at least a 6-yard gap. Quick little stiff arm there to Reed, and it's off to the races.
Down goal at the 5. Trubisky a perfect 7 of 7. And he goes to the end zone and caught for a touchdown. Jimmy Graham grabs another. His 6th of the season. That's number 6 among tight ends. And Trubisky throws a touchdown pass and a perfect 8 of 8 start against the Texans. It's a 1st and 10, and outside they go. Mooney looking for a block, and he gets one from his other receiver, Robinson, to the pylon. Touchdown! Got it! 12-yard touchdown pass. Trubisky to the rookie Mooney. And the Bears go up 22-7.
Demetrius Harris up top left.
And they got the touchdown. That's caught by Robinson. 3-yard touchdown reception. 3rd touchdown pass in the first half by Trubisky. And a lone fan enjoying it here at Empty Soldier Field.
We finally get an opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. We finally get an opportunity to congratulate our Chicago Bears on finally ending that 6-game losing streak and getting a big victory over on the lakefront, shaking the lake Our Chicago Bears knock off the visiting Houston Texans by a final score of 36-7. Ladies and gentlemen, this is another edition of the Rewind Sports 60, the Bears post game show on WCPT 820 AM in the beautiful, beautiful city of Chicago in the fantastic neighborhood of Jefferson Park. This is another edition of the Rewind Sports 60. I'm Jerry Riles, the fastest hour in sports conversation. Lauren Cox has the night off. She'll be with us next week for sure. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, you love him. He's the one. He's the only. He's not over at Wrigley Field taking in the cup game, doing baseball. He's not over at. They still call it the sale over there? Is he what's it called? What do they call it? Oh, they call it Guaranteed Rate Field. He's not over there, ladies and gentlemen. He wasn't at Soldier Field. He's not over at the United Center where the Bulls are tipping off their second preseason game of this 2020-2021 season. Ladies and gentlemen, he's in studio. WCPT 820. He's the one. He's the only. He's the marvelous one. He's Dan Marver. What's up, Marver?
Hey, how you doing? I haven't been anywhere. The last live sporting event I was at was in March 10th to be exact. So I'm having tremendous withdrawal. Now, last week we were talking about firing the entire
Get him out of here,
organization. And me, myself included. So I apologize for that. Obviously, they were doing something this week, right? Because the results were unbelievable. I mean, 36-7. Who would have thunk it?
No one would have thunk it. But it's not too hard to believe that the Bears finally ended that 6-game losing streak for the simple fact they played the struggling, the dismal, the dismantled Houston Texans, despite the fact that they had the quarterback that we should have had in Deshaun Watson, and they made mincemeat out of him. But before we go on, Marvelous, I have to say, happy Hanukkah to you.
Oh, yeah.
And all our Jewish brothers out and sisters out there. Happy Hanukkah to you. How's it going?
Oh, yeah. I got up to number 4. We're halfway home. 4th night.
Wow.
Just started sundown, yeah.
So did you get gifts every night?
In theory.
That's usually how it works, right?
I mean,
usually in theory.
More for the little kiddies, I think. The adults don't.
So this is day 3.
Yeah, well, 4.
Oh, day 4.
Yeah, it's sundown. So, it's halfway home, and then in 2 weeks will be Christmas. So it's unbelievable. It's the season.
So do you get an opportunity to celebrate both or no?
I celebrate anything.
I love that. You're just like me. You're cut from the same cloth. You
That's
celebrate
right.
anything.
I celebrate anything.
Wow,
it's fine.
Wow.
Yeah, it's great.
But it's gift giving for 7 days.
In theory.
In theory.
In theory, yeah.
What gifts have you collected?
Socks.
White Sox tickets?
No, it's got socks.
Oh,
for my feet.
Socks.
My feet. Yeah.
I actually need some socks.
Okay, well, if I get some extras, I'll bring them in next week.
Yeah, bring them in.
Yeah.
Bring them in. Marvelous. Folks, welcome. We got a great show on tap for you. Want you to be a part of it. Our number here is 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Of course, we get Bruce Heron, the former Bear linebacker, number 51, joining us shortly to recap this Bears again, knocking off the Houston Texans over at Soldier Field. The final score 36-7. You love Bruce Heron. He's number 51 in your programs. He's number 1 in your heart. He will be certainly joining us. We'll get an opportunity to talk a little basketball. Of course, the Bulls, they're tipping off this in a matter of about an hour or so over at the United Center. And we'll hopefully get a chance. I don't know, Marvelous, did you get an opportunity to see him on Friday night?
I watched some of the games, saw the highlights. I mean, it's just weird in these empty arenas, but and they're going to start the season a week from tomorrow, so it's a real short turnaround. Yeah,
it certainly is, and hopefully we'll get an opportunity to talk about that. But we do want to talk some. It's been a very, very rough weekend for the University of Illinois and the alumni base and the family of the Fighting Illini. It's been a very, very hard weekend. They take it on the chin against the Northwestern Wildcats over in Evanston on Saturday, and they lose the what is it called? The Abraham Lincoln hat or something? What's it called? The Battle of Illinois. But what's that trophy called?
It's
it's hilarious.
It's Lincoln.
Yeah, but they man, they lose the. They've never, and Lovie Smith, that football team never have beaten Pat Fitzgerald's Northwestern Wildcats, and it wasn't a good performance on Saturday afternoon, of course. And then basketball.
It's Land of Lincoln is what it really is
the
called.
Land of Lincoln Trophy, and congratulations to the Northwestern Wildcats. And then in basketball, they simply came up a little bit short.
Mizzou.
Io, they lose to Mizzou.
Yeah.
And after closing the gap, trailing by 13 points late in the ball game, they closed the gap, and Io, I don't understand what happened. Did you see the ending of that goal?
I saw his 3-point shot off balance, but before that, there was that flagrant foul. It looked like the guy kind of flopped.
Yeah.
That really turned it around.
I just didn't understand
Coburn
the.
Looked like he may have extended his arm a bit, but the guy looked like he'd been shot
out of a cannon or something. Exactly. Yeah, that was kind of questionable in its own right. But coming out of a timeout and the play that was drawn up, that simply didn't make any sense. It was an ill-advised shot put up with like 2.3 seconds left in the game. Of course, it fell short, clanked off the rim, and the Illini didn't get the rebound. They lose it. A tough one to Missouri. So that was tough as far as on the field, on the court is concerned. And then, of course, we get the sad and disappointing news. First and foremost, that Lovie Smith, after 5 years, going 17-39 for the Fighting Illini, was relieved of his duties down in Champaign. So he is on the market. We'll get an opportunity to talk about that. And very, very disappointing news and sad news in the basketball world and the University of Illinois family. And I love this guy. He was a man's man, and he's a fixture as far as Chicago basketball is concerned, the state of Illinois basketball is concerned, and of course the University of Illinois. And unfortunately, and I don't know the cause of death, but Jimmy Collins, former assistant coach for the Fighting Illini back in the heyday when you talk about the '89 Flying Illini, and of course the UIC Flames head coach with that program, he passed away at the age of 70. Was it 73?
74. He had
74 years old.
Had a heart problem, but I don't think they listed the cause of death.
So we'll hopefully get an opportunity to reflect a little bit about Jimmy Collins. I thought he was just a fantastic human being. I thought he was an incredible basketball mind, and he was the one, the resurrected. He was the one that put Illinois basketball more or less back on the map as far as the state of Illinois is concerned. And we talk about the national ranks. And again, I mentioned the Flying Illini back in '89, of course, with Kenny Battle and Kendall Gill and Stephen Bartle and Lowell Hamilton. Those guys, that was Andre Battle. They were a fantastic basketball team. And it was a credit to Jimmy Collins for the simple fact that they were Illinois homegrown athletes who played on the high school level. He was able to convince and recruit them and get them to come to the University of Illinois. And more or less the rest is history. But may he rest in peace, and condolences go out to his beautiful family. And he was just a blessing as far as the state of Illinois is concerned, as far as the University of Illinois is concerned, and as far as the game of basketball in the public league. Jimmy Collins made a positive, a heck of an impact here in the Chicagoland area and the state and across the nation.
He was a great recruiter. He brought in Nick Anderson, Kendall Gill, Lowell Hamilton, and Marcus Liberty all to they were on the 88-89 Illini team, and with UIC, they made the NCAA 3 times and NIT once. Pretty good record.
Yeah, a very good record. And I got to say this, if you've been listening to the show over the past few weeks, definitely this season, you know that I get on my soapbox and I get on my rant, and it's usually aimed toward the Bears because, during a 6-game losing streak, a 6-game losing skid, they give you reason and they give you cause to or at least give it to me, for me to get on the soapbox and really, fire at them and fire out at them. I'm happy that they got the 36-7 victory over the Texans, but there's we talked about smoke and mirrors when they were 5-1. We still got some work to do. There's no question about it. But as far as getting on my soapbox is concerned, I appreciate the University of Illinois Chicago, the Flames, giving Jimmy Collins an opportunity to become the head coach over there. And he brought some fire to that program as well, and never met up to the standards as far as the University of Illinois is concerned. He actually deserved to become head coach down in Champaign.
They picked Lon Kruger instead.
Yeah.
I was efficient again. Like I said, I just went out there today and took what the defense gave us. They tried to show some different looks and mixed up some man and zone, but I just wanted to find the underneath completions and let these skill players just go to work with the ball in their hands, make them tackle, all our ball carriers, and we had some good stuff in the run game that definitely helped us in the pass game. And for me, it just allowed me to find completions, take us down the field, and it was really good that we finished in the end zone. So we just want to keep finishing with touchdowns and keep continuing to get better. I thought we could have locked in a little more of the second half and really finished some more drives off with touchdowns instead of field goals, but I think that's something we can build off of this week. But the way we're working in practice right now, our mindset of these guys, just the way they're coming to work, they deserve this win today, so I'm really happy for them.
We're happy for you as well. The Bears knock off the Houston Texans by a final score of 36-7 over at Soldier Field on the lakefront here in Chicago to improve their record to 6-7. They end that 6-game skid. The Texans, the dismal Texans, that was a bad football team. They fall to 4-9, and Deshaun Watson, God bless him, he tried to do any and everything he could, but unfortunately the Bears just overpowered them, outmanned them, and outcoached them, to be honest with you. The Bears, congratulations, they improve, and we'll see what happens next week when they go on the road to take on the Minnesota Vikings. But we'd love to get the insight there. Every week, ladies and gentlemen, you get an opportunity to hear from this man. He is the best in the business, and he is on the program, the Rewind Sports 60, WCPT 820 AM, former Bear outside linebacker, number 51. He's number one in our hearts. He's on our TR60 hotline. Welcome back, Bruce. How are you? Bruce Herron's on our TR60 hotline. What's up, man?
Man, I'm doing good. Doing good. Had a great day today.
You played great.
One of my best friends today turned 60.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
You guys may know him. We call him the Colonel. You guys may know him as Richard Dent.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
You know what? I actually reached out to Richard's, one of his buddies, to see if we can get him on, but I hadn't heard back from him. But happy birthday to the Colonel, Richard Dent. That's fantastic.
Oh, man. I tell you, we were out today, watched the Bears game out at Top Golf in Schaumburg. Celebrate Richard's birthday. Myself, Otis Wilson, Jim Osborne. You guys remember him?
Yeah.
And Richard and his wife and his kids. And so we had a great time, man. Hitting golf balls, watching the game, having a couple of cups of Kool-Aid. Yeah. But we had a good time, man. We had a good time. We had a great conversation watching the Bears. I tell you what, man, they actually look better today than they ever have all season long.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, especially at that Pittsburgh performance last week, they came out and responded well. It was real pleasing to see them play today.
Yeah, it was very pleasing, and this was probably the best performance that Mitchell Trubisky had as a Chicago Bear. Definitely this season, no question about it, but probably as a Chicago Bears. Bruce, his number is 24 of 33, 267 yards with an 8.1 average, 3 touchdowns, of course. He was sacked 3 times for a loss of 26 yards. His rating, QB rating, it's probably the highest it's ever been, Marvelous. Yeah. 126.7. So congratulations to Mitchell Trubisky on a complete game, more or less. He didn't throw any interceptions, so that was good. But I think also congratulations, Bruce, to the coaching staff, in particular Bill Lazor, who I believe is still calling the plays for the Bears. The plays that were drawn up and called for Mitchell Trubisky to execute were conservative. There was no question about it. And he just basically had to follow directions and hit the open man in the flats. Nothing real deep, nothing real, serious across the middle. He just flared it out. He hit a, nice 5, 7, 10-yard dink and dunk, and the Bears managed the clock. They moved the ball down the field. He was 8-8 on that touchdown drive to Jimmy Graham in the end zone. So congratulations to Mitchell Trubisky, but also to the coaching staff for calling a very well football game for this young quarterback to get some confidence and the Bears to get a victory.
Absolutely. One of the things I was happy to see is the Bears defense, Pagano, putting some pressure on the quarterback, man. And that was just pleasing to see, man. I mean, this soft zone they've been playing with receivers running into open areas and just sitting down, and quarterback just playing catch with them, moving the ball up and down the field with our defense. It's just I was sick and tired of seeing that. Today they brought pressure today. I was happy to see the outcome of that. So.
Hey, how you doing there, Bruce? This is Dan. Last week we were ready to burn the Lake Forest building down, so this is quite a turnaround, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I tell you, that's one reason why I say, you know what? Let's just take a deep breath. It was a terrible day. It was a terrible day at the office last week. They just didn't even show up, man. And let's just calm down and let's see what happens. And today they came out and responded well. So it was a really good day.
Yeah,
really good day.
Yeah. Hey, Bruce. I mean, you've been through some ups and some downs playing for the Chicago Bears over the time that you spent, and of course in the National Football League. You've seen it. Was this a game that the Bears collectively needed because of the 6-game losing skid, and with the woes that the Texans are currently facing right now? Deshaun Watson has been struggling, although he put the team on his back. He just does, and let's keep in mind that the Houston Texans didn't have all their major firepower on this football team. So Deshaun Watson pretty much had to put this team on his back and try to do something. Unfortunately, he fell short. Was this a game that the Bears, in your opinion, needed, again, to build the confidence of Mitchell Trubisky, but to build the confidence of the overall team, to get the monkey off their back, so to speak, and move forward to try to build from there?
Yeah, you know what? It was a game that they needed. I mean, they really stunk up the place last week, and they needed a game. They need to play like they played today in order to put that in the rearview mirror, because they played so bad last week, both offensively and defensively and special teams, that they needed a game like today, man, just to get that bad taste out of everybody's mouth and get people focused on them being a positive force in the city. I couldn't have. I was actually shocked. I mean, the guys and I, we were at Top Golf today before the game started, and we were talking about making jokes about the Bears and how many points they were going to give up and all that. But to see them come out, man, playing that first half, I tell you, man, it was something special. It really was something special. So,
yeah. It was a good day today as far as the Bears are concerned, and it was good to see, because I don't know if this town could have taken another loss, especially to the Houston Texans. But the one thing that Matt Nagy mentioned during his post-game comments after the victory, 36-7, he said that this team is starting to create an identity, and that's not something that we've been looking for all season long. Actually, for the past 2 seasons, we've been looking for an identity from this team, and Matt Nagy said we finally are starting to turn the corner and create an identity for this football team. And he mentioned the fact that the run game, which we can talk about David Montgomery. He still only had 11 touches for over 100 yards rushing. So congratulations to him. But 80 of those yards came on the first play for the Chicago Bears. Right. But Nagy also talked about the pass protection. He talked about executing. And he talked about Mitchell Trubisky making good decisions. With this victory, did you notice an identity starting to rise up for this Bears football team?
I'm not too keen on when coaches start talking about we've gotten to the point where we're developing an identity. You look at the what have we got? 3 games left in the season. 3 games left in the season. Mm-hmm. And 4 games. What happened to the previous 10, 11, 12 games? Right. I mean, there were major opportunities to create an identity, and we didn't do it. Today, I just think that they played so bad last week that I really think that both offense and defense and even special teams, I think that the whole team was pretty much embarrassed, and they knew that they were a better team than they showed last week. They're actually a better team than they've showed all season. But today, something they came out. It seemed like they came out really focused.
Mm-hmm.
They came out with a game plan. They executed the game plan. Pieces fell in place. They took advantage of opportunities to make first downs, to score. They took advantage of opportunities to on a defensive side to prevent first downs, and they got turnovers. I mean, everything. The ball bounced their way today, and I just think that rather than an identity, I think they were more focused today and ready. It seemed like they were ready to play.
Even the offensive line did a decent job.
They did a damn good job, man. Really damn good job. So it was a pleasing game, a very pleasing game.
No, it was very good. But here's the thing that scares me, Bruce, and you play with the greatest, and it's not just my opinion, you played with the greatest football player that ever laced them up, and the great number 34, Walter Payton, may rest in peace. But you know, in the black and blue division, and you know, playing in Chicago, and today is what, December 13th?
14th.
14th. 14th.
You know, you everybody knows that in the middle part of December, in the National Football League, in the black and blue division, you're running the football. You're running because the weather off the lakefront is, it was like 35 degrees, 36 degrees earlier today. The weather off the lakefront it's brutal in December. And that's when you start to pound it and you start to grind it. And those big boys up front, they get down in that dirt and they start knocking some heads off.
That's right.
But this is what is confusing and scary to me, and especially when Matt Nagy talks about identity. You run the frickin' football in the National Football League in the month of December when you're playing in Chicago. David Montgomery, albeit the 80 yards, God bless him, and he had the breakaway speed, so to speak, to get 80 yards down the field for the Bears' first score, but he only had 11 touches for 113 yards. How can you give your running back 11 touches who plays for the Chicago Bears in the month of December, only 11 touches? That's what's scary to me, man. That scares me.
Yeah, I mean, he broke that first run for 80 yards, and then after that, he only touched the ball 10 more times.
Right.
That's crazy. That doesn't make sense. Run that kid, man. Let him run. Let him run.
Yeah.
God, I don't know, but you know what? I was happy that that's a piece of the game today that is puzzling. But at the end of the day, I don't want to pick and choose and find fault in a big win like today. It's such a feel good story.
Mm-hmm.
To see them to go out and execute and win a game. Yeah, I mean, there's some things they could have done better, like giving Montgomery the ball more often than they did. But at the end of the day, they won the game. And that's the important piece.
Yeah, it is very important, no question about it. But what I'm afraid of, Bruce, is the fact that when the Bears are 5-1, when they were 5-2, and they were 5-3, many of us around the city said it was smoke and mirrors. And you remember when Nick Foles said, "Hey, listen, do you guys want to win ugly if you want to win pretty?" And they were, to me, they were selling the fan base, a raw bill of goods by saying, "Hey, you know what? We're doing okay." I don't want to go down that path again, and that's why I bring up the running game, because you got Minnesota, and you know who they got running the rock for them. Dalvin Cook.
Oh, yeah.
That guy's a beast. They know what to do. They say, we got a guy that can run the rock. Let's give him the rock and let him run. So I'm not bringing it up to be a downer as far as, what the Bears were able to accomplish today. And again, kudos to them with the 37-7 victory, 36-7 victory ending that skid. But I'm looking forward, and I don't, after listening to Matt Nagy and Mitchell Trubisky talk after this game, I know the Bears, and they should think this way, that their playoffs hope are still there. I personally, Bruce, and you help me out with this, I personally don't think it's a realistic goal, because, again, I don't think that they're going to beat Minnesota when they go up to the Vikings next week to play them. Jacksonville on the road, to me, it's a toss-up. They might win Green Bay if Green Bay gets a victory and they wrap up home field advantage. They may let their guys rest and be a throwaway game. I don't know about that one, but that's what scares me about the win with this team today is the fact that they may truly believe that, hey, we're still in the, and they are in the hunt.
Yeah, well, if they get that 7th seed, they're likely going to play Green Bay, New Orleans, or the Rams. So I don't know if that's going to be such a great thing either.
Yeah, but my beautiful wife Lisa asked me, are the Bears a playoff team? And I said, no, they're not a playoff team. And that's what scares me, Bruce. What do you think?
Yeah. You know what? I would love to see them win out. But they've got their 2 last games, man. They've got, 2 of the 3 last games. They've got Minnesota and Green Bay, and both of those teams have never been a chalk up win for the Bears. I mean, they have to claw and scratch for every inch they get. It's going against Green Bay in that last game of the season. That's going to be a tall order. It's not that they can't do it. They just haven't shown all season long that they can win games like that. They've got the talent to do it. But, as far as I'm concerned, and quiet as kept, I don't think they've got the coaching to do it. And that's the scary part to me. That's just what they've shown. What they've shown is they've been outcoached all season long. And but today, I'm telling you, man, that defensively they came out smoking, man. Came out smoking, and then not only just came out and started the game smoking, they kept it going. They kept it going the whole game, and that's something we really haven't seen all season long.
That's
even
exactly
in the
right.
5 games that they won previous to today.
Guys, today they had ideal December field conditions at Soldier Field. I don't know if they'll have ideal conditions in January 3rd against the Packers, so that could be a factor too.
January 3rd or January 2nd. So either way.
Yeah.
Right. Again, and here's the deal. If the Bears win another game, I don't see any changes, whether it's in the coaching staff or in the front office. I don't see any changes at the end of the season. And, of course, many fans were calling for that after last week's debacle and, of course, the embarrassing loss against the Packers on national television. Back-to-back weeks, it was just horrendous as far as Bear fans were concerned. But if they win another football game, I don't see any type of changes. And it appears to me that they'll stand status quo and business as usual. What is your perception or your forecast as far as this team is concerned? If they win another game, how do they move forward during the offseason from what you can witness?
Well, I really don't anticipate them making a change at the head coaching position. But I tell you, from where I sit, I do think that they need to address the defensive coordinator position, and possibly bring in an offense coordinator as well.
Really?
But I really don't see them getting rid of Nagy at this point. I don't see that happening.
But do you see? Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say that I do think that they really have to address the defensive coordinator position, because that's something that is, with all the talent they have on that defense, they should be in the top 5. I mean, every week they should be in the top 5. And those guys, for some reason, they have not been playing like they're capable of playing.
So let me ask you this question. 2 questions real quick, Bruce. Bruce Heron on our TR60 hotline, former Bear outside linebacker. 2 questions here. Does Matt Nagy once again take over the play calling duties for this Bears team in 2021? And do you think they should at least place a phone call to Lovie Smith, who was let go by the University of Illinois, the football program, this weekend, as their head coach with a disappointing a record of 17-39 in 5 seasons. Do you think that Nagy continues to call plays next season? And should the Bears pick up the phone and call Lovie Smith and ask him would he become an advisor for them to help work out some things? Because he's a defensive-minded genius, some would say, but he's a defensive-minded guru, and he might be able to lend some support as far as some decisions being made in the front office.
You know what? I don't think that's going to happen. You know what? I don't know what the Bears are going to do. This is all going to be on George McCaskey. But I tell you, I think rather than bringing Lovie in as some kind of evaluator of talent and all that, I would love to see them bring Lovie in as a defense coordinator. Lovie has a way of getting guys to perform, man. Guys love Lovie. They put their lives on the line for him. They play their hearts out for him. He just has a way of getting guys to play their asses off. And that Lovie's always been that way. It's too bad. It's too bad that the new general manager came in when Lovie's last year, and after going 10-6, they let him go.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy. The man had too much success to be let go after going 10-6.
Yeah. So do you think Nagy continues to call plays moving forward after this season if they win another game and he stays pat?
I don't know, but I hope that he understands that being the head coach. I mean, some head coaches are head coach and offense coordinators or defense coordinators, but you know what? A head coach has got a lot of responsibility for the entire team, not just an offense or defense or special teams. You're responsible for all of it. Hire the best people you can hire and let them do their job.
Yeah.
Let them do their job.
If possible, I think Lovie would probably want the head job again somewhere, given a choice.
Yeah, but you know what? Lovie doesn't have that. He doesn't have that kind of selfish pride where he sees an opportunity to get back into coaching in the NFL, and the Bears come call him and say, "Hey, Lovie, you know what? We'd like you to throw your hat in the ring as defense coordinator. We'd like you to come in and talk to us."
Yeah.
And I think that he would do that.
I think it would be smart for the girls, at least. Did I say girls?
Yeah.
I think it would be smart enough for the girl. What? I'm sorry. I'm looking at Pam Oliver here. So I know. I'm looking at Pam Oliver. I'm sorry, Jalen Hurts. But I think it'll be smart enough for the Bears to at least pick up the phone and call Lovie to see if he has some interest. Because I think if they took a page out of Jerry Reinsdorf's book regarding Tony La Russa, I know Sox fans don't want to hear it, but I think if they took a page out of his notebook and said, "Hey, you know what, Lovie, we did you a disservice. You went 10-6, but we fired you. We know what you mean to this franchise. We know what you mean to the players and what you've been able to do with your tenure here and your extensive resume. We'd love for you to at least come back and entertain some thoughts that we're having." I think the Bears should at least try to do that.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that they will, but it would be nice if they did.
Yeah.
It really would be nice if they did.
Yeah.
I think it would be to the Bears' advantage to do that. But I'm not so sure that they will do that.
Right. The Bears are who we thought they were. Any last thoughts?
No, man. I just I'm happy. I'm really happy about today. It was a great day to be a Chicago Bear and a Chicago Bear fan. But next week we're right back in the saddle again, man. They got it. Hey, enjoy the game today, but hey, man, tomorrow after you watch the film, all their attention should be on the Vikings, and it's not going to be easy to beat the Vikings.
No, it's not.
They lost today as well, but they can beat the Vikings. They can beat the Vikings. And you know what I'm going to say right now? After the way I saw these guys play today, I'm not going to say that they're going to win next week, but I'm going to say that they have a great opportunity to win next week. If they can perform like they did today, get after it, hit those ears back and go, they got a chance to do it.
I think you're
Really
right.
got a chance.
I think you're right. Hey man, I got a bone to pick with you real quick before we say goodbye. You were at Top Golf in Schaumburg, just around the corner from my digs, and it was you, the Colonel, Richard Dent, Mama's Boy, Otis Wilson, and who else was there?
Jim Osborne.
Jim Osborne, and you didn't,
number 68.
dude, you didn't pick up the phone and say, "Hey Jerry, come on over here." You know what I'm gonna do for you now? You know what I'm gonna do for you? I'm calling up Darwin Hackney and telling him, don't give him no more. Don't give him no more of that banana pudding, no more, because he left me out. He left me out cold.
Don't do me like that.
I gotta call Darwin and say, hey, no, he's gotta earn his. You gotta earn it. You gotta earn it back. You left me out cold. I love Top Golf, man.
Hey man, Henry texted me today, and I haven't been able to respond to his text. But the first thing I'm going to say tonight when I get off the phone with you, I'm gonna text Henry. I say, Henry, get Dory to make the banana.
No, hey, Henry gonna say, how come you didn't call him too? He wanted to come over as well. Hey, Bruce Aaron, you the best, brother. We love you. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you next week. Hopefully the Bears will come away with the victor. Take care, brother.
AM820, I love you guys.
He's the best in the business, ladies and gentlemen. Bruce Aaron on our TR60 hotline. Any closing thoughts, Marvelous?
No, we'll see how they play. The Minnesota, they're tied in the 8th spot now. It's 6-7, so there's still playoff talk, so it should be interesting.
It certainly is. Hey, thank you so very much for tuning in. We'll see you on Comcast on Wednesday at 7 p.m., Channel 17, Channel 19, Channel 35. It's another edition of the fastest hour in sports conversation, the Rewind Sports 60. Thanks to the Marvelous One. Thanks to our illustrious producer, Devin Tingle, and, of course, Lauren Cox, who will be in studio next week. Have a great rest of your evening. Enjoy the week, and we'll talk to you guys next Sunday. Go Bears! 36-7 victory over the Texans.
TheRewindSports60.com. Relax. Reset. Rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60.
Take me out to the ball game. Hall of Famer Andre Dawson.
All right. Let's hear it from the greatest fans ever. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back Forest Root. Root for the Cubbies. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Hey, let's get some runs. Thank you.
take this time to say thank you so very much for watching the Rewind Sports 60 channel. All sports, all day, encore presentation, and much, much more. Thank you so very much for your continuous support. Continue to watch, continue to support. Stay safe, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great rest of your day, and may God bless you. Now, back to the Rewind Sports 60 channel. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Sports Medicine Update, a weekly podcast with yours truly, Jerry Riles, and the Honorable Dr. Chad Padromas. Doc, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jerry. How about yourself?
Doing fantastic for the most part. Have some ailments here and there. The left knee is acting up a little bit, but I'm pleased to say I had an opportunity to get the master to touch me, and I'm basically healed. So thank you, Doc.
My pleasure. My privilege.
Maybe a little bit more work, but thank you so very much. But other than that, doing fantastic. Doc, let's jump right into it. The world of sports obviously has been affected by the pandemic and COVID-19. We've seen it all across the board for the National Hockey League, the NBA, Major League Baseball. Congratulations, for those sports to get their championship titles and the teams crowned for sure. But of course, we're looking forward to starting another season as far as the NBA is concerned. The National Football League, they're doing very well, I guess, as far as plowing through this season. But albeit there are cases of COVID striking its ugly head on numerous teams around the league, and even hit our own Chicago Bears this past week, where a practice player contracted the virus, and they had to shut the facilities down, NFL protocol, and they had to shut Hallis Hall down for about a day or half a day to make sure everyone was safe and sound. But COVID is here, and the numbers have certainly ramped up. It's also hit the collegiate level as well. I understand there's somewhere between 460 to 487 college basketball games that have already been canceled. We know the number of games that have been canceled in collegiate levels as far as the colleges are concerned, and the Ohio State Buckeyes to play their rival, the dreaded team up north, the Michigan Wolverines. That game was called off for the first time in over 100 years because of Wolverines program, and they have been hit hard with the COVID-19 as well. What's your latest assessment as far as this virus, and what's the newest on the news front?
Well, several things. As to your first point about people getting the disease, you had asked me periodically when we discussed this what I thought was going to happen, and what I've said consistently is that that people are going to test positive and games are going to need to be postponed, but that the ultimate answer was just to keep on going and cancel where you have to cancel, but keep going and things will work out. And they have, and they will. And the reason is that at the end of the day, these athletes are healthy people. And happily, outside of the unfortunate gentleman I mentioned in Division II some time ago, who was kind of heavy, who unfortunately succumbed some time ago. Basically, people have gotten sick or gotten infected, but happily, we're talking about the inconvenience of canceling games, not the tragedy of, horrible consequences from the virus. And in fact, when we've heard reports like that, they basically turned out to not be valid, as with the earlier report from the Penn State doctor about heart issues, which turned out to really not be severe. So basically, the bottom line is these young, healthy people get infected and they get over it, and life goes on. And again, in accordance with the principles of the Great Barrington Declaration, the more young people that get it and recover spontaneously, the better it is for society, because they dampen down the spread of the virus. So again, happily, there have been postponements. And I saw, the Big Ten changing the regulations on the fly, as they should. So they had said you needed 6 games. Now they said you only need 5 games. But at the end of the day, the leagues are continuing, and that will continue. So I think all these leagues are doing a great job, and I think the good news on that front is that we're going to be talking about inconveniences of rescheduling, not medical tragedies, which happily has been the case so far. The story that was interesting was out of, I think it's the Baltimore Ravens, where they had several people, I think 4 people test positive. And so when they did genomic sequencing and looked at, you're actually able to tell for a given virus or a given bacteria of a particular species or type that there's different strains. Strain isn't the right word, but different types of it. And so by doing this and tracing who had which one, they were able to find that, in fact, the virus and the people that were infected apparently did not get it from on-field transmission. There was, as I understand it, transmission from an unnamed team personnel, and I don't know if this is confirmed or not. At least one report said that it might be their strength coach. I'm not certain that that's true, but the main message is that it wasn't from on-field play, which of course had been a concern. The thought is, well, these people are in close proximity and they're breathing on each other, and is this going to be this horrible transmission issue? And this advanced biochemical work on these different strains of the virus that people got have shown that that hasn't happened. That's great news, because it furthers the thought that people continuing to play is not turning out to be a big source of transmission.
So, you bring up a good point there. And again, we talked about how the National Football League, they continue to try to stay on top of everything and continue to try to get these games in. But we know that there have been teams, as you mentioned, the Baltimore Ravens, that have been hit with it. But back to the collegiate ranks real quick, Doc. Mike Krzyzewski, the basketball season has just started, and teams are playing in their respective regions of the state and the country. We know here locally, DePaul has yet to play a collegiate basketball this season due to the virus. But Coach Mike Krzyzewski, after Duke lost to the University of Illinois this past week, made post-game comments about the severity of this virus and the lack of, so to speak, and I'm not putting words in his mouth, so I'm paraphrasing, but the lack of concern as far as the student athlete is concerned. And he put, he pointed the finger at the NCAA and said, it appears as if they're more interested in the bottom line, the end line, and of course that's money and revenue generated, as opposed to the journey and the processes that these student athletes have to go through. And he felt that at this point, with the numbers going up, that maybe play should stop until you get a handle on it and then resume. Did you get an opportunity to hear those comments? And if so, what are your response to that? What's your response to that?
I didn't hear and I didn't see, but as you're describing them, I don't think I would agree. You've probably read the reports about suicides, people talking about suicides directly attributable to depression from this. So the basic point, my alma mater, Princeton, I think has not always been at the top of their game on this in some areas, but they did something recently that I think is the right idea, relates to what you're saying, which is they've decided to have in-person classes in the spring, but they're making sort of their own bubble. And I can't tell you everything, but the idea is that the students will be there and the students will go to class, but I think they can't leave campus and one thing and another. So the basic point really hasn't changed, which is that the tragedies are almost exclusively in high-risk people. Indeed, in low-risk people like these college athletes, the risk is as low as, and in some cases lower than, the flu. And we don't close down basketball seasons because of the flu. So the issue is really pretty simple. you get these young people to get on with their lives, because the emotional and psychological and other toll on them for disruption is huge. And it's kind of fortunate that the people that are, maybe most affected by this, these young people by disruption, are the people that have the least to lose by carrying on. So they should carry on. And I don't know, maybe the NCAA is doing what I think is the right thing for the wrong reasons. Unfortunately, and this is spoken like an old cynic, follow the money. And it's just true far too often. So, maybe they're doing things for monetary reasons, but the net effect of keeping playing is absolutely the right thing. And where the action needs to be focused is, how do you protect high-risk people? So let the kids play, encourage them to play, keep them playing, but protect high-risk people from them and vaccinate those high-risk people. The vaccine is very controversial, but medicine is risk-benefit analysis. And so should you be vaccinating kids? In my opinion, no. But should you be vaccinating old high-risk people? I think definitely yes, because they're the ones that have things to lose. So vaccinate older people, keep the older people away from the kids, let the kids play, keep the elderly, overweight, comorbid, activity manager or whoever else away from them, but let them play, encourage them to play. It's good on a number of fronts. And if the NCAA is doing it because of the money, I think you could question people's motives, but I think their actions, at least as described, are the right ones.
Well, it's interesting, and I love your response. But there be some out there that says, and probably including Coach Mike Krzyzewski with Duke, that say, okay, if you let these kids continue to play, they're student athletes, sure, but you're restricting them or keeping them away from their families for a matter of 5, 6, 7 months, depending on how things go, because of course they won't be able to go home for Christmas. They weren't able to go home for Thanksgiving to see their families and spend time with their family. They won't be going home obviously for New Year's and the long stretch until they figure out March Madness and the bubble. You talk about the mental state of these student athletes. Just being a college student and a student athlete in college is very, very difficult. Now you put the pandemic on top of it. How do you address those individuals who say, hey, you know what, it's not worth the end line as far as the money is concerned, because we're talking about the welfare of these individuals?
Well, you shouldn't do anything because of the money, but keeping the kids away from their families for the school year, I mean, I don't know. Is that supposed to be a tragedy? I didn't go home. I went away to college. I didn't go home for Thanksgiving when I was in college. It was a price of a plane ticket. And honestly, couldn't afford it. I mean, I guess we could have, but it was expensive. So I stayed in school. I stayed in my dorm. There was nobody else around. I mean, so the heck what? I don't think it's a hardship. I did go home for Christmas, but I don't think it's a hardship at all. And I think, and the other thing, and we bring it up every time we talk about this, but so you take sports away from these kids. So what do you think they're going to do? Lock themselves in a tower in isolation? They are likely to be engage in behavior that's worse, uncontrolled behavior. So go to school, study. If you're there on a vacation, I didn't go home for spring break. I didn't go home for Thanksgiving. I remember I was in dorms by myself. I was studying. I mean, we just didn't think it was worth the money. I didn't have a car. Could afford a car. I didn't have my own car, so we didn't think it was worth the price of a plane ticket. It was fine, I don't get that argument at all. It's better for them to play, stay at school, do what you're doing. You know, and there were some other kids there, you know, and be with the other kids. So I don't, the disruption of these kids and taking sports away from them is far worse. I think this is not an issue in the slightest.
Dr. Chad for Journal Sports Medicine Update, our weekly podcast. I have to ask you, you brought up and mentioned, and there's obviously throughout this pandemic, which really hit the United States back in March, that it's equivalent to the flu. But there are some out there to say, okay, if you want to say that it's, you know, a different level of the flu, they say regularly during the flu season, you have between 50,000 people a year that die from the flu, maybe 70,000 depending. But when you talk about COVID and the virus and the amount of people that are dying from that, they're projecting upwards of 459,000 people dying by February. How do you address that comparison?
Well, there's two sides to that. The first thing is you have to look at subgroups. And COVID is benign for young people. So when I said it's no worse than, and in some groups better than the flu, that's for young people. There's no question that it's a bad disorder for old people with comorbidities. And it just makes absolutely no sense to lump the safe subgroup with the unsafe older subgroup. And the flip side of it is the young people, look, there are exceptions to everything, but overwhelmingly young, and they've done a study in Marines and they tested people, and these people they didn't have any symptoms, you know? So these young people are overwhelmingly safe and probably safer than the flu for them. And they should get on with their life. And actually what should happen is you build up herd immunity in the population through them. Great Barrington Declaration, again, signed on by some of the most brilliant epidemiologists, infectious disease people in the world, from Oxford, from Stanford, from Harvard. So let them get sick, because once they're infected, they will contribute to herd immunity. So you get herd immunity from young people from getting the disease. You get herd immunity from older people from getting the vaccine. Now, the other thing is, in the older people, the numbers that you mentioned, you know, there are a lot of deaths, no question, and they're tragic. But there was also no question but that the deaths, even in these populations, are overreported. As everybody knows, medical institutions profit. And I said follow the money. I'm sorry to have to say this, but medical institutions, this is widely known, profit. When they report a COVID death, they make money on it. Goes against their bottom line. So, you know, the people the guy that gets in a car accident and dies with COVID gets reported as from COVID. So the death rates from COVID, there's no question they're high and they're tragic in this older demographic. There's also no question that they're lower than reported. And it goes beyond that. You know, as you perhaps know, there was scandalous misreporting clearly identified in Florida, where cases where the case rate that was higher than the total number of people tested. So there's no, and you know, and something else. So you say, well, people get COVID, right? Well, you know, the COVID rate is not necessarily people that test positive. The COVID rate is also, in many cases, people who are just symptomatic. And I don't want to get wonky, but there's other things too. The test for COVID is a test for viral particles. And this test is set at a level of specificity. And it's parts, I think it's parts per, I'm not sure which it is, but it can be 25, 30, 35, 40. Well, it turns out that the sensitivity of the testing in the US is significantly higher than it is in much of Europe. Actually, Florida is the only state in the country where Governor Ron DeSantis, who I think has been a hero through all this, has mandated that the level of sensitivity of the tests be determined, because a lot of the people who are testing positive for COVID are testing positive for pieces of the virus and are not infectious, right? So this death rate, no question people are dying, high-risk people, and it certainly is tragic. But the number of deaths is inflated. The number of cases is inflated. And again, I mean, I hate to say it, and I've been a health practitioner for, I'm 66. I started medical school at 22, most of my life. But unfortunately, the medical profession, the medical industry is not immune. And, follow the money and look for where people are making money on reporting COVID deaths. Look where people are making medical experts who are making money on their affiliations with vaccine companies. So what I'm saying is the magnitude of the deaths, they're high. They're certainly higher than the flu for older high-risk people, no question. But they're not nearly as high as reported. And so the answer is, it's kind of like geographically treating, rural areas the same as buildings where people are living on top of each other makes no sense. That's why top-down government mandates across states are destructive. They need to be individualized to region. They need to be individualized to population. So let the kids live their lives. Otherwise, you're going to lose more people from suicides, and that's already happening. Protect like crazy the high-risk people.
So I got to ask you this question, Doc. I appreciate you being elaborate and expressing your thoughts on the virus and its effect on the community and this country. So, but the question I have to ask you, because I'm sure people who are watching or listening to this podcast, the question may come up. So, are you saying that the numbers here in the United States are inflated because of financial or profit from institutions? Is that not happening globally as well? Because of the numbers, they seem to reflect what's going on here in the United States as well. So are you just isolating it to the United States of America, or are you saying globally that numbers are being inflated?
I'll tell you an interesting thing. I cannot speak for other countries, but when hospitals get thousands of dollars more, so someone is positive for COVID, but they die from a fall, from a broken hip, something else. It is, let's just say it's widely theorized that, I'm not saying that their care is suffering, and I'm not saying they're doing anything nefarious. They're not. I think everybody is trying to do well by people, right? But the difference between dying with COVID and from COVID, there are many, many instances that have been written about that are clear and obvious where people died with COVID, not from COVID, but were listed as COVID deaths. And is that from the money? Most everybody thinks it is. I don't want to speak to the magnitude. I don't want to speak to other countries, but I'll tell you something else since you bring up other countries that's interesting. So there is a pitched battle being waged now in COVID regarding early treatment. So hydroxychloroquine was advocated early on, and then President Trump advocated it, and it became intensely politicized. And because he advocated it, opponents of President Trump trashed it. And I began my research study when I saw, politics aside, when the FDA came out with their mandate that said, and I've talked about this before on this podcast, that hydroxychloroquine was cardiotoxic, and using it as an outpatient could result in cardiac deaths from arrhythmias. And again, I've been practicing for a long time, and I have many patients who were on this drug for rheumatoid arthritis, for other problems. And this drug has been widely prescribed for decades without an EKG, without problems. And it caused me to start to research it, and then to use the resources of my foundation to research it. And it culminated in a paper that has been published and quoted around the world that showed that there has not been a reported death from cardiac arrhythmia from hydroxychloroquine. So people said that it was unsafe for that reason. It isn't unsafe. It is safe. And this is a systematic review. This was looking at all the studies published. There have been other studies to back that up. We then did a study about efficacy that showed that for outpatients, it was efficacious. So it was trashed wrongly. Now, the tragedy of this is this drug is safe, it's effective, used early, and it's cheap. And there's another drug that has come to the fore called ivermectin. Ivermectin is used for an annoying skin condition called scabies, where little skin mites, they're little bugs, little parasites that get under the skin and they cause itching. And ivermectin is an oral medication that's taken, and it can also be used topically, and there's a related medicine that can be used topically. So studies on this drug have shown that it's effective. Now, let me tell you what's interesting. You're asking me about internationally, right? Well, we in the United States have lots of money, right? So we spend it on remdesivir, $3,200 at least for a course of treatment. And there's evidence that it helps, but I'll tell you, the last big study on it didn't show that it helps. So does it help? Yes. Are the results dramatic? Probably not. Is it expensive? Yes. Can you afford that overseas? By and large, third world countries can't. All right. So we can, and we use it. Ditto convalescent plasma, which I think is worth using. Ditto antibodies, which is worth using. But in poorer third world countries in Asia, they don't have our money. So they use hydroxychloroquine extensively. They've taken to use an ivermectin extensively. Hydroxychloroquine is used with zinc, and they report excellent results. And I'm part of a study group with some of the smartest epidemiologists and virologists and infectious disease people in the world. I go through better than 100 emails a day as part of this group, and they're reporting great results. They don't have our money, so they look at data, and they're getting great results. But we in the U.S., with lots of money and with money for vaccines, which they don't have, we ignore these simple, inexpensive treatments to our detriment. So, one thing I'd like to mention to people out there, if you get ill, I will tell you that early treatment with hydroxychloroquine and zinc has been shown to be effective. I have 2 published papers in excellent journals that are cited worldwide that my foundation did. These are systematic reviews, not my study, reviews of other literature that clearly show it. And you can Google them and you can find them. So early treatment with hydroxychloroquine and zinc, clearly effective, cheap, will save thousands of lives. Harvey Risch, the brilliant Yale epidemiologist, has been one of the chief proponents, certainly not the only one. Well, I just want to tell people there's another substance, ivermectin, same thing. Now, hydroxychloroquine is uniformly safe even for pregnant women. In fact, it benefits the fetuses of pregnant women. Ivermectin is not approved for pregnant women. But there is a pitched battle in our country. If you get sick and you want hydroxychloroquine, or if you want ivermectin, there are medical jurisdictions where doctors will refuse to prescribe it for no reason. And even hydroxychloroquine, I've heard it said there's a shortage for people with lupus. Well, there's a foundation, the Palmer Foundation in Australia, that bought 32 million doses of this drug. 32 million doses. It's out there. It's cheap. Costs 37 cents a pill in the U.S., 10 cents a pill elsewhere in the world. So that's a bogus argument. So ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. We in the U.S. are kind of too stuck up for these, right? They're cheap. Leave them to the third world countries. They don't have money. But those third world countries in many cases are doing better than we because they don't have our resources, and they are treating early. And early treatment is available here, can be used, should be used.
So, Doc, let me ask you this then. So if you say you have a pre-existing condition, okay, African-American male, living in the inner city, pre-existing condition. So I'm susceptible to, potentially getting this virus and succumbing to it. Would this be a recommendation for me to look into and say, hey, you know what? I want to beat this thing before it gets me. And I go
absolutely positively. And I'll tell you something else. And you mentioned African-American, right? So, Jerry, you're older than you look, but you're not a senior citizen. And, being African-American isn't really the relevant characteristic, as you probably know. It's being obese. And unfortunately, the minority community has more obesity. And with obesity comes diabetes and other things. But yeah, without question, that older people with comorbidities should get treated, can get treated. I get people calling me all the time because I've written about this a lot, and they say, my doctor won't prescribe it. And I might have mentioned on this program before, there's at least one system in Chicago, and I guess I won't mention it, which issued a directive prohibiting their doctors from prescribing it. This is nuts. It's a horrible intrusion on medical practice.
So how do you get it?
You find a doctor who will prescribe it.
Okay.
And I have doctor friends who will prescribe it. I don't prescribe it for people because I'm not really in the business of treating respiratory problems. But you find if you are a high-risk person and you test positive early on, absolutely. So hydroxychloroquine with zinc, get an EKG before you start. If you've got a prolonged QT interval, maybe you don't take it or maybe you watch it, but it's completely safe. And you talk to your doctor. Now, unfortunately, the propagandizing against it is so intense that many doctors don't even understand this. And we attempt to educate doctors. There were very interesting Senate hearings run by Ron Johnson just in the last week or two, where some of the champions of early treatment, Harvey Risch from Yale, Jane Orient, a brilliant epidemiologist, Peter McCullough from Baylor, and others, presented the abundant evidence in favor of early treatment. And and I don't even want to get into it because it disgusts me, but it turned a little partisan. It's terrible, and I don't even want to discuss it. But I will tell you, these hearings have opened people's eyes, and people are asking about it. And so the answer is yes. If you are high risk and you get it, you need to get it early though, and you need to get it with zinc, right? And you should probably get an EKG and be monitored by your doctor. And if your doctor won't prescribe it, you need to find one. My opinion, and this is advice I would give you. I would give my parents have passed, my wife's parents have passed, right? But I would give any relative of mine in that circumstance who was high risk who got it.
Well, doctor, we can continue to talk with you. You're so full of wealth and knowledge and insight, and it's just captivating, no question about it. And we can go on and on and on. I just want to tell people, hey, remember, just to be safe, the easiest thing you can do right now, in my opinion, is put the mask on, wash your hands, and social distancing. And if you have to stay in place, meaning staying at home, by all means, do it. Stay safe. But if you have to interact, go through the protocol and do the things you're supposed to do. But worst case scenario, there is an option out there for you. Doc, we can go on and on. If people want to get a hold of you to learn more and find out more, how do they get a hold of you?
Our office phone number is 847-699-6810. We have a wonderful staff and are happy to help as many people as we can.
You do certainly have a wonderful staff. I had the opportunity to meet them firsthand, and what a pleasant atmosphere, pleasant group of people. Doc, thank you so very much, and I'm glad I'm in the care of your hands, Doc.
Hey, Jerry, it's my privilege. Thank you.
Dr. Chad Prodromos, Sports Medicine Update, the weekly podcast. Take care of yourself. We'll see you next week, Doc.
Thanks, Jerry. You too.